Thank you and welcome, comrades. I'm pleased to see so many people here. I listened to Laura a bit earlier. I'll just say to you, Laura, bullying, ridiculing, welcome to the trade union movement, sweetheart, because that's what it's about. We've all gone through it, but you'll rank higher than that and you'll prove it wrong. I'm here to talk to you about the current rail strike, the current industrial dispute within the rail system. Have I got all the answers? No, I haven't. I haven't got any answers, I'll be quite honest with you. Well, I have one. I think what we need is a change of government. We need a change of government. We need to bring in a government that will bring the public transport system, because that's what it is. It's a public transport system, and it should be brought back into public hands and run for the public by the public. That ain't going to happen, and certainly not with this government. And I know we've got promises from the current Labour Prime Minister that they will bring back these services into public ownership. I don't usually talk politics, and certainly not with this man sat beside me, because I know what he's like and I know how fiery he is. But I'm going to be quite honest and open with you. My favourite phrase to the bosses used to be, if you don't want to know the answer, then don't ask me the question. It's as simple as that. Do I believe that Keir Starmer is the best Labour Prime Minister that we're going to get? Do I believe he's going to topple the Tories and bring everything back to normal? No, I don't. I'll be quite honest with you. I remember another Labour MP telling us he was going to bring the transport system back into public ownership when Tony Blair took over with the wonderful New Labour, which was a sick paper away from the Conservatives. And I'll be quite honest with you, I believe that Keir Starmer is also a sick paper away from being a Conservative. That's my view. I'm sorry if some don't agree with that, but that's my view. I don't think he's any better than we've had in the past. But having said that, would I want a Labour government in? Yes, I do, because I think a bad Labour government is 100% better than this shower of shite that we've got on the What this government needs is some socialist people in there, like the man that sat here beside me with some socialist views, and they need to look back and think about where the Labour Party was actually formulated and by whom the Labour Party was formulated, and that's the trade unions. The same trade unions that this man has stopped his front benches from going out and supporting on the picket lines, from showing their support, will not stand up and say that he supports working class people fighting for their rights. That's not a Prime Minister that I want to be leading me, to be quite honest with you, but it's better than having a shower like we've got at the moment. So that's my political bit done. Where are we with the industry's dispute that we've got at the moment? Well, to be honest, we're nowhere. We're 6 months in. There's been very little negotiations done. We are being run by a group called the Rail Delivery Group, who is headed up by a guy called Steve Montgomery, and his sidekick is a guy called Andrew Meadows, who's HR, and I'm pleased to say, disgusted to say, that I've dealt with them both over my years as a trade union representative, and I don't rate either one of them. I'll be quite honest with you. They are having their strings pulled by the Tory government. There's been no meaningful negotiations. This is the paper that the Rail Delivery Group put out to start with, the report that they are trying to bring in. I'm not going to bore you with it. I've read the whole thing. It's 80 odd pages long. I'll just read you. This is what they want to do with stations, retailing, travel centres, etc. The first paragraph says a new multi-skilled station role will be created to replace all existing station-based roles, accompanied by a new apprenticeship entry role with structured salary progression for new entrants. I go down another paragraph, and this is what they want to do with on-trains staff, catering staff, guards, drivers, everybody else. And the first paragraph says, a new multi-skilled on-train role would be created to replace current on-board roles accompanied by a new apprenticeship entry role. You know, if I thought it was a bad cut and paste, I'd be a little bit happier, but it isn't, because this is what they want to do. Multi-skilled is what they keep repeating. Phraseology that came from the comrade further down that said they call it modernisation. You're absolutely right, that's what they're calling this. It's not modernisation, it's decimation. That's what it is. They are going to decimate the system, the rail system, and the forerunners of that rail system are the staff that's employed there, and their biggest saving will come on the wage bill. So they want to cut jobs out. They want to automate everything. I'll start with what they've done with Network Rail. Network Rail, the maintenance side of it in particular, seems to be where they want to aim all their toxicity at. They want to cut out 2,500 maintenance jobs whilst keeping the same rail system that we've got at the moment, that requires the same maintenance that we've got at the moment, but with 2,500 skilled staff less. Now, you know, I'm not a genius, but that tells me that you are not going to be able to maintain the same amount of maintenance properly and safely with 2,500 less staff with the same amount of rail miles that you've got to cover. But they seem to think they can. They want to bring in something called cost-based maintenance, risk-based maintenance. Now the title's there and it speaks for itself. I'll tell you what it means. It means that when there's some maintenance required, they will go and look at it, they will assess the cost of that maintenance, and then they will assess the risk of not maintaining it there and then. The risk of being able to leave it for a later date. Well, I'm so long in the tooth as a railwayman, or an ex-railwayman, because I've now took redundancy and I'm retired. I can remember the last time that cost-based and risk-based maintenance was used, and I'll take you back to 2000 when the Hatfield rail disaster happened and 4 people lost their lives. My girlfriend should have been on that train that day, but she broke her foot the day before. And as God would have it, she wasn't on there, so she wasn't hurt or injured, but she could have been. 4 people were killed. That was caused by a crack in a rail that had been identified some weeks before, but they had decided that it wasn't bad enough to have to repair it right there and then, and they put it in the log for doing later. That killed 4 people. I'll take you forward two years on to another disaster at Potter's Bar that killed 11 people. Again, a set of points that split when that train went through. Why? Because it hadn't been maintained correctly, although it had been identified prior to that. They decided the risk of leaving it unmaintained was sufficient to outweigh the cost of doing it. Well, I'm here to tell you that the RMT is not going to stand for going back to those days and put your lives and my family's lives at risk. We will not do it, and we'll fight tooth and nail to stop that happening. They talk about apprentices. Apprentices in skilled jobs are fine. They get a skill at the end of it. They get a certificate at the end of it that allows them to use that skill throughout the whole industry. Okay? These aren't apprentices. These are cheap workers. It's as simple and as easy as that. And for that, they want to offer them 4% this year and 4% next year, provided everything has been implemented that they want to implement. And it's exactly the same on the trains. They want to get multi-skilled staff that do everybody's job. Jack of all trades, master of none. They want to take the guard off the train. They want to close 900 plus travel centres and ticket offices. Where does that leave the elderly? Where does that leave the disabled with nobody to talk to, nobody to help them? It's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace, and it's all about profit, so they can pay the 14, 15 TOCs that are taking the money out of this country and taking it across to Europe to run their railways. They want to carry that on by paying the shareholders. And they are holding everybody to ransom in order to do that. The rail have not had a payoff other than the 2% that's been offered for all private sector public sector workers, and 1% next year if we allow them to all the reorganising that they're doing. We're not going to accept it. We're carrying on with the reballot, and if it takes another 6 months or another 12 months, we'll be on the picket lines and we'll be pushing this back as hard as we can. But we can't do it alone. We need everybody else around us to stand shoulder to shoulder with us. When nurses and care workers and doctors and firefighters are balloting for industrial action, something is wrong. They aren't workers. They use that as a vocation. They don't go out on strike easily. Stand together, brothers and sisters. Enough is enough.